All right, if you've ever been in a startup, you know the feeling I'm talking about. That relentless pressure, the sheer chaos, the constant race just to stay alive. Today, we're going to give you a mental model to not just survive that pressure, but to actually master it. Think of this as your field guide for navigating the incredibly intense journey of scaling a company right from ground zero. Let's dive in.
It really all starts with this vibe right here. This isn't just some random phrase, it's the mantra, it's the chaotic pulse that beats at the very heart of every single startup. It's that raw, frantic energy, that desperate push to build, to sell, to survive. You don't ignore this energy, you learn how to channel it.
So what do we really mean when we say heat? Well, it's this unique mix of intense pressure, that chaotic energy, and an almost obsessive focus you need to build something from literally nothing. The trick isn't to be afraid of the heat or to try and cool things down. No way. The key is understanding that there are different kinds of heat, and each stage of growth requires you to master a very different one.
And that brings us to the very first, most primal stage. We call it the product heat. This is the furnace. This is where your idea either gets forged into something real and strong, or it just breaks apart and melts into nothing. It is raw, it is intense, and believe me, it is all-consuming.
At this stage, you have one job and one job only: survival and validation. Can you take that idea that's rattling around in your head and turn it into something real, something that people actually want, maybe even desperately need? Literally everything else is just a distraction. Your entire focus has to be on the product itself.
So how do you actually handle this first heat? Well, it boils down to these 3 steps. First, you have to validate the problem. Don't just think it's a problem, prove you're solving a real, painful issue for someone. Second, forge that MVP, your minimum viable product. I mean, the absolute most stripped-down version that solves that core problem. And third, you've got to find those first users. Get it into their hands to prove it has value. At this point, seriously, nothing else matters.
Now, here's what's so critical. To graduate from this first heat, you need a massive mindset shift. As a founder, you're always told, do things that don't scale. Manually onboarding users, brute forcing every little problem. And that's how you survive. But to grow, you have to pivot. You have to adopt a scalar mentality. You have to start building systems that can handle 10, 100, 1,000 times the load.
And that leads us perfectly into the next stage, the second heat. This is all about process. See, you've proven you can create something valuable one time. Great. The real question is, can you build the machine, the forge itself, that can replicate that success again and again and again?
The whole challenge completely changes here. It's not about one-off heroic efforts anymore. It's about being predictable, being efficient. Can you give that same amazing experience to your 10th customer, your 100th, your 1,000th? This heat is all about moving from catching lightning in a bottle to building a lightning factory. To master this process heat, you've got to take 3 key actions. First, you document what actually works. That sales script that landed a big client, that email campaign that got a ton of replies, write it down. Turn those successful, chaotic moments into a playbook. Second, build repeatable systems around those playbooks for sales, marketing, operations, everything. And third, you never stop optimizing. You constantly refine those processes to make them better and able to handle way more volume.
Okay, so once you have a product that people love and a process that can deliver it reliably, it's time to pour gasoline on the fire. And that brings us to our third and final heat: people. This is where you go from building a machine to building an army. It's about scaling the human side of your business to get that sweet, sweet exponential growth.
And listen, this is arguably the most complex challenge of them all. I mean, how do you hire dozens, maybe hundreds of people and keep that special culture that made you successful in the first place? How do you scale communication when you can't be in every meeting anymore? This isn't just about scaling the business, it's about scaling yourself as a leader and scaling your values.
So how do you manage this kind of explosive heat? Well, first, you scale the team with the right people. Not just smart people, but people who can actually handle the intensity of your company's specific stage. Second, you solidify the culture. It can't just be some unwritten rule anymore. You have to define it, write it down, and embed it in everything you do. And finally, with that team and culture in place, you master your go-to-market and just floor it, massively expanding your reach.
The biggest lesson in all of this is that scaling isn't just one thing. It's a progression. And your success, it completely depends on knowing which fire you need to be stoking right now. Because trust me, trying to build processes before you have a product that works, that'll kill you.
and trying to hire an army before you have a process, well, that's just a recipe for pure chaos.
So let's just boil it down. Your journey as a founder takes you through these 3 heats. You start with that intense product heat, searching for that magical product market fit. Then you shift your focus to the process heat, where you build a scalable, repeatable foundation. And finally, you unleash the people heat, pouring fuel on the fire and accelerating your growth with an incredible team that gets what you're all about.
Look, this isn't just some abstract theory. It's a diagnostic tool. You can use it today. So I'm going to leave you with a question for your own company, your project, your team. What heat are you facing right now? And are you focusing all of your energy on the right fire?